Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to another IELTS writing video. This time we'll be focusing on the area of collocation. Now, I've mentioned collocation in a previous video, but we're going to get into a lot more detail with it now. So, a basic way to describe them would be that they are set phrases. They are basically words that match with other words in many different patterns. Now, every single language has collocations, and English is no exception. And you'll really be learning about them all the way through your English studies, okay? Even at the advanced level, you still hear basic mistakes with collocation. For example, many people say that they did a mistake instead of made a mistake. That's the word you need to use with mistake, the word that collocates. Even if it sounds logical, like for example, if you say to give your attention, that's not really very natural. We would say to pay attention, even though it doesn't actually sound as logical. So this is just a very basic example, but collocations really go right through the language, and they can help you with all parts of your IELTS exam, not only the writing exam, but also the speaking exam. In addition, it'll help you with your everyday English. So it's really an area that definitely deserves a lot more attention in the English language classroom. So again, let's get into them, and I will share my screen with you now. Okay, so this screen might look a little bit confusing at first glance, but don't worry, we're going to break it down now. So when we talk about collocations, we usually talk about them being on a spectrum. Now, this is a spectrum just here. It has a middle point and then a left-hand side and a right-hand side. Now, on the extreme left-hand side, you've got words that are less flexible. Now, that basically means that they have a limited amount of other words that they match with, okay? And on the other extreme, we have more flexible words that can be used with a whole variety of different words. So let's look at an example on both sides of this spectrum, and then a few things in between. So with a less flexible word, usually you'll find advanced words or uncommon words in this particular category. So one example is the word inclement. Now, I said in the welcome to your IELTS writing introduction that it's very good to keep a lexical notebook in which you can record new words, okay? But I also mentioned how you should record these words with more than just its meaning or translation, okay? So for example, in addition to its meaning or a translation, you should also record its form, pronunciation, and if you can, a couple of collocations, okay? So let's look at the word inclement. Now, the meaning is unpleasantly cold or wet. The form is right here. It is an adjective, so it is used to describe nouns. With the pronunciation, pay attention especially to the stress. So I've got a few lines here. They indicate syllables. There are 3 of them, and you stress the second syllable, okay? So inclement, all right? And then as far as collocation goes, it only really collocates, or at least it collocates very strongly with the word weather. There are not many other things that you can describe as inclement, okay? So that is an example of a strong collocation, inclement weather, okay? And the only place you really hear this is at UK train stations because the weather's always usually inclement over here. And they say something like, due to the inclement weather, please take care when walking on the platforms, okay? Right now, on the other side, you've got these more flexible words, like the word big. You could describe anything as big, a big house, big car, and so on, okay? But the area we want to look at is everywhere in between. Now, as I've already said, one of the most typical mistakes that people make is exactly that. People say I did a mistake instead of I made a mistake. So do you're going to be understood if you say I did a mistake, but it's not good English. And don't forget that on the IELTS writing exams, you want your collocations to be on point. Okay, this is how you're going to get the higher marks. All right, so you want to look out for these little errors. Now, there are different categories of collocation. So inclement weather is an adjective and a noun combination, and you have a few more of them here. So you might call someone who smokes a lot a strong smoker. And again, that would make sense, but it isn't really what we say in English. We would call someone like that a heavy smoker. And then conversely, the opposite would be a light smoker if someone doesn't smoke that much. You have noun and noun combinations. So, for example, a cash point or cash machine, which is a bit more of a British English way to describe an ATM. Then you have the verb and noun category. And you can see here that on this side of the spectrum, we start to have more options with this particular verb. So you can tell a story, tell a joke, a secret, the time. A lot of people here actually use the word say, so say the truth or say a lie, but no, you need to say tell. You told the truth or you tell a lie, okay? Another useful couple of set phrases is to tell the difference or tell them apart. These actually mean the same thing. So if you have a couple of identical twins and you don't know who is who, you would say, I can't tell them apart, or I can't tell the difference between them, meaning I don't know who is who. I can't distinguish between them. Okay. Right, and as I say, when you do your IELTS writing tasks, if you show the examiner that you know a variety of fixed phrases or fixed collocations, this is going to look good on your exam. And as I say, this is how you will achieve the higher band scores. Now then, obviously, collocation won't just help you in your IELTS exam, it will also help you in your English in general. And before we finish the video, I'd like to introduce a good resource that you can use for learning collocations, and we'll go over to that right now. Okay, so this is a website called freecollocation.com. Now, this is a little different from most online dictionaries because, as we've been talking about, it not only provides a definition to a word, but also some of its collocations. Now, it does say that the level you should be is kind of upper intermediate to advanced to make the most out of this website. But anywhere from intermediate and up, you'll still find this helpful. So let's test it out. Let's put in the word choice and look for that. And then here, as we see, it gives a definition, but then it also gives its collocates. So, for example, the verb that you use with choice is make, okay? You make a choice. And then you have a series of adjectives that also collocate with choice. So you can make a careful choice or a good choice or an informed choice and so on. And you also have prepositions, many other phrases. And this is a really good resource for collocations, especially because, as the name says, it is absolutely free. So this is something I would recommend that you use. All right, then, that's all from me for this video. If you're working on my website, please, as always, scroll down below to do the following exercises. The first one will look at collocation patterns and test you on those. And then at the bottom of the lesson, in the final interactive task, I have another IELTS writing task too for you to do. Otherwise, that's all from me. Thank you very much for joining me in another video, and I hope to see you soon.